welcome back. Today I thought I would do something that I had mentioned in a previous video. I had made a few months ago a tour through my work bag, and I briefly mentioned my notebooks. I carry both of these with me. They are knockoff traveler's notebooks. I have these with me at all times, mostly this particular notebook. And so I thought I would walk you through each of my notebooks. So not just this notebook, but my smaller traveler's notebook. And I thought I would also share with you some of my other notebooks as well. I would just kind of walk you through these, give you a bit of a tour, let you know what I use each of these for. They all have very distinct purposes. I am a writer. I write stories and I keep journals, and I write essays occasionally on my Substack as well. I'm trying to post more there, so I will link that down below also. But I typically like to write longhand. I find that when I try to write one of my stories or I'm working on a Substack, I get really distracted when I try to write on my laptop. So the best tactic for me personally to just focus in and write as much as I can whenever I can is to write physically longhand in a diary or a journal, or typically when I'm writing a story or a Substack essay, I like to use legal pads. So I have two right here. I like to use these smaller legal, I feel like that's pretty classic. I like to use these smaller legal pads that I found on Amazon. I like to use these for my novels. So right now I am working on a novel that I had previously been serializing in my Substack, and I hit a bit of a wall with the story, but thankfully I have been able to write a little bit more in that story, and I have been using this legal pad and it's been working really well for me. So sometimes I carry this around with me, sometimes I just write in my larger traveler's notebook, which I will talk about in a little bit. But I have this legal pad, and I have a couple other legal pads corresponding to other stories I'm working on. And I also have this larger legal pad, which I like to write my Substacks in. So whenever I have an idea for like a personal memoir or an essay or something like that, I jot the idea down in my traveler's notebook, and then I write the whole thing out longhand in here. For some reason I like the larger legal format when I'm writing. When I'm writing my essays, I like the little bit of a difference between fiction being in here and my memoirs and things being in here. That is the story about the legal pads. I don't typically carry these around with me. I keep these at home. I mean, sometimes I'll carry them around. It kind of depends on my mood. And it's a little bit easier for me to write longhand in legal pads, especially if I'm writing for a longer time. Like if I'm just sitting at home and I want to write, I'll pick up one of these. I also wanted to mention a journal that I've been using for my morning pages. I'm not able to do morning pages every single day. It's just one of those things. If I'm able to, I try to, but I really like using this journal. Again, I like how it's a little bit bigger. It allows me to just write quickly and just scribble in my thoughts while I try to get to those 3 pages. And I love this journal. It's the Dreams Come True journal, and it was designed by Shayna Klee of the Purple Palace. She is one of my favorite YouTubers. She put out a series of journals on Amazon that she had self-published, and I love them. I think they're so beautiful. She puts her own paintings on the covers, but you can see here they have Dreams Come True there at the top. I just thought it was really beautiful, and I really like using it just for my morning pages, just to grab and throw in my thoughts in the morning. So I will link this down below for you if it is still available. I can link all of my journals and things for you down below in case you're interested. They're not affiliated links or anything. On to the traveler's notebooks. So again, here are the two that I keep. And like I had mentioned in my What's in My Bag video, I started off by using this smaller passport-sized traveler's notebook. And I don't use this one as often as I use this one, although I do carry them both at all times, or I try to at the very least. If I have my work bag, I carry them both. If I'm carrying a smaller purse, I'm carrying this guy. So I will show you really quickly my smaller traveler's notebook. I have in here some photographs, my husband and I on our wedding day. I have a family picture here. I have a picture of my cat and a little card that my grandmother gave to me a very, very long time ago now. And I don't really use this as much as I thought I would, but I do have a little pouch in here that I put just little scrap papers in. Like I said, I don't use that as often, but I do also have access to this little zipper pouch, which if I need to put something in there, it's nice to have. The first little signature that I have in here is a little pocket calendar, and this is like the one little notebook I have from the Traveler's Company and it's actually really beautifully made. I love this planner so much. I don't use it as often, but I do have appointments and things in here, birthdays, all of that good stuff. I don't think I've updated this in a month or two, so I really need to get back into this, but it's just nice to have just to refer to. The next notebook is a mini writer's notebook. My husband writes out my titles for me. He very kindly, in this really cool font, wrote out writer's notebook and put a little bow and arrow because I'm a Sagittarius and he likes to do those for me. So I am not going to show you too much of the contents, of course, but I do, in my writer's notebooks, I like to jot down any kind of ideas that I have. I like to write down snatches of poems that come to mind or things that I observe that I want to try to describe just for practice. Really anything that I find inspiring, I throw in my writer's notebook. And I do have another writer's notebook in my larger traveler's notebook, but if I am just with this particular traveler's notebook, the passport size, when I have a purse, I always like to have my writer's notebook. I never want to lose track of an idea. So there's that. Here I have this blank. This is, I didn't quite know what to name this. This notebook is home to just randomness, anything that I need to remember, like packing lists, grocery lists, things that I can't quite find a place for in other notebooks. Like here I have a list of cookies that I wanted to put in the Christmas cookie boxes I put together last year and the family members I wanted to give them to. I have some YouTube video ideas. I have goals for the new year that I threw in here. I put a list of books that I wanted to try to track down at the library in here that I was reading, that I found when I was reading in a magazine. So this is just a super random notebook. I never really knew what to name it, so it doesn't have a title page. And it's kind of a similar situation with this little mini legal pad that I have that a friend of ours who does collages did this beautiful collage for me. Absolutely beautiful. And again, here I have online ideas and brain dump, which is really what this is. I have title ideas for when I was naming my Substack. I have just, again, a bunch of randomness. knitting project ideas. I tried keeping a word count log in here at one point that didn't quite work. So yeah, just again, randomness. And I think I mentioned this in my what's in my bag video, and I'll mention it again here. I really like having a small notebook like this that I can rip pages out of in case I need to just write a quick note and hand it to somebody or something like that. I just think it's handy to have. And here I have a little pouch that I have random stuff in. I have some scrap papers and a used tea bag that I think I wanted to remember to pick this up from the grocery store, and I never did, and it's just been living in here ever since. This is a really great pumpkin spice tea, by the way. So that is my smaller traveler's notebook that I like to carry with me if I can't carry my big traveler's notebook. I have mentioned this before, but I've had this one for longer than I've had my larger traveler's notebook. And the reason why I switched from this to this for my everyday planner and my everyday notebooks and things like that is because I didn't love the smaller size. I wanted a little bit more room to grow. This traveler's notebook I got back in October of last year, and I have used it every single day since, and I absolutely love it. As you can see, after using it for even like 6 months or so, it's gotten a beautiful patina. I did not spend an awful lot on this because I wanted to give the larger traveler's notebook a try. I just got this on Amazon, and I think maybe down the road I might invest in a better quality, maybe a traveler's notebook, the brand, or maybe find something really beautiful on Etsy. But to be honest with you, I really love this. I don't know if I need to do that. I think this will work really well for me for a really long time. I will show you what I have inside here. Similar to my smaller traveler's notebook, I have these craft folders, bookmarks in case I need to use them when I'm reading a book. And here I have a picture of my husband and me. I have a picture of our cat Hetty. I have a family wedding photo here, a Polaroid of my husband and I on vacation. I have a picture of my husband, and I have another photo of him and me dancing at our wedding reception. So it's just a random assortment of photographs that mean a lot to me, and I really like seeing them when I'm writing or when I'm at work and I'm writing in my archivist log, which I will show you in a minute. I love having them there. First up, I have, how many notebooks do I have in this thing? That's a good question. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 7 notebooks in here total, which is absolutely bananas, but it works for me. First up, I have my daily log, which I'm not going to show you a fully filled out page. I'll show you an empty page. But I write out everything that I did throughout the day, just little remembrances, maybe what I had for dinner. I'll write down like if my husband and I played Scrabble or something. I'll just kind of write down a quick summary of the day. And then on this side of the page, I like to scrapbook. So I have a little photo, like a Canon photo printer. Maybe I can put a photograph of it up here. I have one of those, and I print out the pictures that I took throughout the week and I put them in here. And it's a lot of fun, actually. I recently completely finished my first daily log, and actually the other log that I have as well, which is my archivist log. I completely filled my first one that I kept from the end of October until the end of May. Like, just finished out my first full week in this new signature. So this has been an awful lot of fun. I love doing it, and it helps me kind of remember what I do day to day. I have another pocket that I put a bunch of random stuff in. what do I have in here? I have a fortune from a fortune cookie. I have a sticker. I have a little leaf. I have a bit of scrap paper. I have little notes. I think I have a couple other photographs in here that didn't really fit anywhere else in my scrapbook pages of my daily log. I have a whole bunch of random stuff in there. And then I have here in this next notebook my archivist log, which again, I'll show you an empty page, is the same layout as the previous daily log that I keep, but I write down everything that I do in a day at my work. So I am an archivist. I track everything that I do throughout the day as an archivist, what I do at my job, the people I talk to, the projects I'm working on. I do also, instead of like scrapbooking, I do my to-do lists here for the day, and it works really well for me. It keeps me on track. I'm a big to-do list gal. I need to write things down in order to remember them. So I have a lot of fun with that too, and it's really interesting to look back on what I've done professionally as well, and especially when I have to do like a self-review or things like that, it's really helpful. Next up, I have another untitled notebook, and as you can see, I intended to use this for NaNoWriMo last November, and I did not do NaNoWriMo last November. So really, this notebook is lined, and it is where I write longer bits of my stories. So my novels that I'm working on, if I don't have one of my legal notebooks with me and I have an idea for a scene, or I just want to write through a scene or something like that, I write it in here. So this is for longer form ideas. And then next up, I have my bigger writer's notebook, which is the same exact thing as the writer's notebook that I have in my smaller traveler's notebook. It's just, this is my main writer's notebook. So all of my ideas, snatches of poems, changes I want to make to my stories, new story ideas. Here I found a really beautiful photograph of a duck that I just thought was really sweet, so I printed it out and I put it in my writer's notebook. Here I have the Proust questionnaire, which I thought was interesting. I have some poems I wrote. I have just a whole mishmash. I just love writing in these, and I'm almost done with this one too. I only have a couple pages left, so pretty soon I'm gonna have a whole new notebook to fill in there. So next up, I have my journal. This is another lined signature, obviously, and this is just for my everyday thoughts, memories, things I want to record that take up more space than what I can put in my daily logs. Here I have my reading journal, and again, this is a cover that my husband drew for me. I've been trying really hard to keep track of all the books that I read and all my TBRs and things like that. So I have a picture of myself in a bookstore there. I have TBR lists. I have been making layouts of all of my books that I've read, and I've been using these cool stamps that I got from Books Unbound, my favorite podcast. They did a cool little book stamp, and I've been using it for my reading journal. Here's my February layout. I won't show you every page, but I'll show you what I had for May. I mean, I have to write more notes in here, but I print out the covers, and I print out like a couple of cute photographs and things like that, and I put them in here, and it's so much fun. And that's kind of how I keep track of what I read, other than like I do keep a Goodreads account and a spreadsheet and all of that stuff. I really love tracking what I read, but this is just one way that I go about it. And then finally, The last notebook that I have is my commonplace book. This is where I write quotes of favorite poems, quotes from books, quotes from podcasts that I'm listening to. Sometimes I'll write out a quote and I'll write a quick response of what I thought about that quote or things like that. I know that commonplace books are a very specific thing, and I don't think it's always specifically just quotes, but it's how I categorize it and how I use it. I'll show you a page. So here I wrote down a quote from Northanger Abbey, and I wrote down a quote from James Thompson's The Seasons. This, honestly, my commonplace book is probably the notebook I use the least often. I do typically, maybe like every book I read, I'll write down 1 or 2 quotes. And whenever I just see something that really strikes me, I'll throw it in there. But it's just a nice thing to have in the back to refer to. I try to write down quotes that I know I'll want to think more about later on. That is everything for my, I affectionately call this traveler's notebook my compendium. And I think it's a cute, I don't know, I just thought it was a cute thing to call it. And all of my notebooks, as you can probably tell, I really love writing, and if you want to read more of what I write, I do have my Substack, which, like I said, I will link down below. And I was also thinking that I would try to film more videos about my writing specifically, kind of talk more about what I write and my process. It's a thing that I've always loved to do. And if you're interested, I would love to share it with you. Thank you very much for watching this video. It went way longer than I thought it would. If you made it to the end, thank you for sticking with me. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.